Hello guys and welcome to Dubai Trains, and as you see, so much has happened. I finished these three roads right here, the road down there. I put soil, basically ground cover, so soil and ballast everywhere, all the way down there. You can't even see it, but it's all the way down there. This whole stretch, everything that I could in between the roads, as I have explained in a few videos. I finished a lot of the foundation work for the buildings like this. That's a bit what you saw in the intro as well. Foundations are there, so I can just place the buildings in case they need to be cleaned or if I'm cleaning the layout. Did a lot of the detail work here with the skillsigns.com. Skill signs, I'll show a little bit more about that in a minute. And adding the ground cover and the ballast, it just makes everything really come together, and it's like this 20/80 effect, with 20% of the effort, everything looks 80% done. So let's have a look at the various areas and techniques, and let me show you how I made it. So how to start off with this? Well, there's basically three different types of materials or ground cover or cover in general I'm going to simulate. One is soil that later will have some weeds and plants and grass and whatnot. Two is a ballast. It's a big thing because obviously it's a railroad. And three is, let's say, mud covered parking lots and terrains, just a bit barren land that can be used for parking and whatnot. And I have an example of that right here. I'll show you that in a bit. So how did I make everything? I started with the ground soil. This ground soil is here in between, basically everywhere that's not covered by the ballast. So here you see bigger sections in between the buildings, so this will have way more greenery on it. And here you can sprinkle little weeds and grass on it. And I used for that just a dried up and sifted pot ground, or it's just soil from your back garden. Not dust or rocks, but soil. And then for the two main tracks going through near north, I used from Arizona Rock and Mineral basalt, number 1152. And for the other spurs and less interesting sidings, I used Scenic Express ballast, number 40, dark gray ballast. And I initially wanted to do everything with this, but now that I have it and I did some test pieces, I find it's too light and it's too homogeneous. It's too consistent in color. It's a bit boring, to be honest. I tried to mix it, but I didn't really have good results with mixing. So I use that here, let's say on the secondary siding or these spurs right there. So now on to weathering, and I'm sure you've noticed already, I'm not going into every step of the process how I did it, because I've already covered that on my channel. So I'll add a link to that playlist and those videos after this video. And for the weathering, keep in mind I already painted the track in a rust color before I laid it, but now I want to tie it all together. And for that I use a method that Boomer Dioramas taught me, and that's where you use pigment. So you just add raw umber pigment directly onto the track with a brush, then you brush it in, you vacuum the excess, and then you mist it with water so it sets, and it also goes a little bit into the nook and crannies of the scene. And I really like that effect because it ties everything together. That rust goes in the track, between the spikes and the rails and the ballast, and also a little bit into the soil. So it just blends everything nicely. So that is the ballast. And then the third one is, I'll show you some B-roll footage right now of this muddy area way back here. Let me just move this around. Yeah, there we go, so we can see it. So what I used for this specific, and I need to be specific, is I use grout mixed with sand. And exactly, I used black grout 3 parts, brown grout 1 part, and then sand 2 parts. And you mix that together, and it's you get a little bit of a workable material. You sift it on with a sieve, and because it's grout, if you make it wet, then it sets a bit, it compresses a bit, so you do need to do a few layers, but that's fine because it also gives you a little bit of time in between to add some tire tracks to the latter layers, etc. And then for the track side here, that was just a beautiful idea of a friend of mine. I got rope and I first soaked it into wood glue, and then once that was dry, I glued this to the insides of the rails. So when I removed it, it was almost completely perfect. It just, you can hear it. that's just how it was. And genius idea, works very well. And then you can really fill in the middle of the tracks and butt it all the way up to the side of the track as well. Now I did sprinkle on some very fine number 50 ballast that I didn't use anywhere else but just here, because if this is a muddy area, then you can imagine they would put some rocks or whatever here just so you can get onto the area, and then some here where the crane is so your truck won't sink away. So yeah, that's what I did to make this a little bit realistic. Of course, you already have the abandoned track right there, barely visible, nice little detail. And that's pretty much all I want to say about this section. Except for one detail I wanted to add is the foundations. So you see I got this foam, basic foam, and I added the foundations, I glued them down. I used gray foam, so I didn't paint or anything, and I put that down before I started the whole grout adventure. So then you can just take your model and place it just right there. Or if you wanted to remove the model, it's great, you just have an empty foundation, all very, very realistic. And if I carefully move this building aside, you see it's the same underneath there. It's just gray foam, and I did put a wash on that, just a black wash, just to make it, yeah, not look like gray foam. But because of all the spillage of the grout and everything, it just looks messy and nice. And I did the same down here with this structure. So it has the foam, has a wash on it. So I could just remove it, or I could, remove this building. It's just a pre-made one I bought. It came like this, and just build my own kit, and just put it there. I could take this foundation plate off. Actually, it would probably look way nicer. It needs a wash anyways. But I just like it like that. It's easy to clean. You just remove all these props, and then you can just vacuum the entire layout. I like to do it like that. So then it's onto roads, and you already saw how I made the actual road in the sidewalk. So all I did was first add the striping. I eyeballed that, to be honest. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't measure it out or anything. I just did take my time and carefully, I like measured this, make sure it's the same distance, but the width is all eyeballed, and also the thickness of these stop areas, stop plates, whatever it's called. I eyeballed that. Might be difficult to see, but it actually is. See, it's a bit thicker. And then after that, I did all the striping with the chalks and add some dusting to everything just to make it less, homogeneous. Basically, just want to mix everything up. And also with a pen, I added the tear marks in the asphalt and there in the concrete. We'll have a look at it in a bit. And then all these just with the thin, diluted black wash. These oil drips, because cars back in the day dripped quite a lot of oil. And then these signs just look absolutely amazing. These are all from skillsigns.com. Really have a look there. And then, of course, there we have a custom sign just to top it all off. Grand Avenue this direction, Kingsbury in that direction. Love it. Great, 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 great. And then don't forget, when you're doing your signs, don't cheap out. Actually make the signs for the other direction. So yeah, I could show you that. These are actual signs for the other direction. Heading to the other side, it's a bit of a different scene. I can move this car. This is car spot off spot, so it could well be spotted right here and it will be unloaded right here. Because as you see, the road is blocked. That's something I always wanted to do. So I just took some ties and one of the posts and the signs from skillsigns.com. Put it there, and yeah, it speaks for itself. So you also need to make sure your weathering on the road shows that. So it's a bit darker, everything beyond here, because it's not used that much. And here the cars, as that sign says right there, only go right. Again, another custom sign right there, Kingsbury. You can read it for that road. That's the Kingsbury Road. And here on the left, you see more of that grout technique used to create this like makeshift parking area where cars would just park somewhere, nowhere, everywhere, like this truck as well. And then here it slowly goes into soil. So I'm guessing this will be some lower grass where cars could still park. Now, one thing I'm sure some of you are going to note is that these signs here, the railroad crossing, and then there with the diagram, and that one, don't park on the tracks, are all on the wrong side of the road. They're on the left side of the road. But why is that? Because here on the right side, as you see, we actually have a freight house. This reddish block is going to be one big freight house building. So there's no place on the right to place any signs. And then we have these cars here, of course. The second one is loaded through the first one, so they all have to be stacked up neatly. And then we got a 2-car road. So we got one here and then one there. It's all getting tight if this stack is full. And then here we have some cars just parking. Because, yeah, you can never have enough parking in a busy city environment. Now, if you ask me what was the favorite part of all this work that I did, I would really say it's just right here. It's all this, actually, this road as well. I really like this road here, how it turned out with the wooden ties and then the concrete and how it mixes, and just taking the luxury really of not making this a through road, having these signs there, just mix it up a bit. This is actually done because we have too many roads in the layout. It's prototypical, but we have a switching layout, and I need to have places where I can spot cars, and I don't have to, blow the whistle every 2 seconds. So that's there, and I like the contrast with the cobblestones, and then back there with the asphalt, and all these signs. Is just really adds so much to the layout. Despite that, we still need to do zoom out a bit. A lot of things. We still need to add the greenery. I think that will really make everything pop. It was the same when I did the diorama. Once you add that greenery, it's just a whole new level. I mean, this is a whole next level from what it was. The greenery, that would be great. But first, up next is detailing of this building. That's all for today, guys. Thank you all for watching. Bye bye.